Can others hear? Is it just
Can't hear
me?
the rabbi.
No.
Yeah, I can't hear the rabbi.
Rabbi, we can't hear you.
You think somebody should send him a chat, the rabbi a chat, or a little?
That's a great idea. Maybe he'll see something.
I think he knows he got his finger up.
We can't hear anything, Rabbi. I'm not sure. You're on mute.
Muted himself.
Yeah, he's gone. I think he's going to try and
Can you hear anything?
Well, it looks like he's gone, so I don't know whether he's going to try and come back in.
You think he knows that he's gone?
Absolutely.
I think he does, because he didn't even look like he was talking. He's
There he is.
speaking. He was looking right at his computer without speaking. So obviously he's got a connectivity situation, I think.
In Hebrew, we say sablanut.
What does that literally mean?
Patience. Patience. That's what the bus drivers say when you complain. Wait.
I know it's obvious, Rabbi. Did you test your speakers on the bottom left hand?
And that's really weird, because he sent a text saying no one can hear me. I take it I wrote correct. And then it said something like, no one's in that meeting by that name or something. Daniel Kropkin is not in this meeting. But I see him.
I don't get that one.
I think I'm going to leave and come back in and see what happens.
I just tried going out and came back in, and I guess that didn't mean anything really.
Yep, I did the same.
It's got to be a connectivity issue. Unless the byte is the Wi-Fi's down, maybe.
No, but we can see him.
You can see him right now?
Yeah. Oh, wait, he looks frozen. Now he's moving.
I switched to the YouTube channel and it was exactly the same thing.
Right.
Maybe the rabbi should switch to a cell phone. Use that as audio.
He looks like he's speaking now. So I don't know if he knows for sure that we're not connected.
I did send him a text, but like a chat.
He knows. He sent, if you notice, there's something in the chat at 6:17. He acknowledged that he knows that we can't hear him. Might be stuck for today.
But looking at his eyes, he looks like he's still working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got his phone up here.
Yeah.
And there's two of them.
He's probably trying to hook up his audio with the phone. Oh yeah, there's two of them.
Can anybody hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah, there.
We can hear you now.
Okay.
Now we can hear.
All right. Fantastic. I don't know what happened to my Zoom.
You have to mute one of your.
Yeah, there's two of you, Rabbi. You're going to have to disconnect the one that's not working.
Well, 1 second. Does this, I hope this makes a difference. Is everyone
Yes,
okay?
it's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay. All right. I don't know what happened to my microphone. I'm sorry. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I guess 1 second, I can still share my screen. Let's see now what happened to my. I apologize, Chevra. There seems to be something wrong with my system today. It's all Meshuggah. There's a lot of haywire stuff. Just give me a minute. In my defense, this computer was purchased by the shul.
I have the same one.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let me just share a screen again. Here we go. Okay. Now let's just start this halacha once more, please, if we can. Okay. V'chein lo ya'aseh b'chatzero milacha sheyesh ba avak ve'afar. That a person also may not do malacha, may not do any kind of work in his own courtyard, if it's going to kick up a lot of dust and earth. Be'inyan sheruach mitzuya molich ha'avak lishcheno. In such a way that just the normal wind would transport the dust to his neighbor, o livnei rishus harabim, or to the public, the yazik lahem, and to cause them damage. I've often thought about a person who owns a jalopy, right? And he rides it and it's got some kind of catalytic converter problems, right? And he's blowing out smoke, right? So I'm sure there's laws about that you have to, there's emission controls, but there's also a halachic concern that you're not allowed to blow out smoke or dust to the neighbors. Tzarich lizaher shelo ligrom nezek mima'asav lishcheno ulivnei rishus harabim. And as a general rule, the Rav Shulchan Aruch says, you have to be careful not to cause damage from your deeds to your neighbor or to the members of the public, to the public thoroughfare. Ele imkein mochelo shcheno, unless your neighbor explicitly says, I forgive. Oh, and here's another wonderful thing. We've just gotten up to page 20. Barry, you usually remind me well in advance when we're getting to the end. Okay, so we'll hold it here, and let's take a look at some of the Imrei Yaakov, and then I'll send you out the next packet. Okay, so a person has to be careful not to engage in activity which is going to blow up dust that will be transported by a common wind. So the Imrei Yaakov says, "Sheruach mitzuya, avalim eno molich he'avak rak al yedei ruach she'ena mitzuya, az eno mechuyav l'salek hezeko." If, however, the dust is only transported by an uncommon wind, by something that is unexpected, and normally the debris that I create stays on my property, so then I'm not in violation, and I don't have to be concerned about that. Molich he'avak, if it transports the dust, he says, if the wind transports the dust that I blow up through the work that I'm doing, then it's no different from shooting arrows. In other words, it's a direct form of damage. V'afal pishu chayav laharchik mikol makom im holicha haruach hametzuya ha'afar ve'havak ve'ezika bahen patur milashalem. He says, if nonetheless a neighbor was negligent and he kicked up dust, and this causes damage, halachically you're exempt from paying. And the reason is, it's a very interesting reason. Shaharuach hu shesiyeya oso ve'ein hanezek ba mikoach hamazik atzmo. And the reason is because the wind was responsible for transporting the dust, and it wasn't I directly who shot the dust over to my neighbor. So there's a lichatchila and there's a b'diavad. Lichatchila, I'm obligated to make sure that debris coming from my property does not travel over to my neighbors. If it does, however, and it's transported by wind and not something that I am shooting out directly, so then I cannot be held liable for damage that it causes. So the difference would be is if I have a machine like a wood chipper or something like that, and it's shooting out, my wood chipper is shooting out wood debris, and it breaks my neighbor's window. So then I'm going to be directly liable for the simple reason that I'm operating machinery that's shooting out projectiles and causing damage. But let's say I have machinery that has a smokestack, and the smoke goes out straight up vertically, and then the wind transports it, and that ends up causing damage, let's say, to my neighbor's fabrics. And causes them to be smoke damaged. So then I cannot be held halachically liable in a beis din. I can be held liable midinei shamayim in the heavenly court, but I cannot be held liable in a beis din, because the argument is that it wasn't my direct action that transported the smoke, it was the wind. Remember, we learned that there are some kinds of damage that if I'm not the one directly responsible for it, I cannot be held liable in a beis din. So let's say, for example, remember, you put poisonous food in front of your friend's animal, and the animal comes over and eats from it, you're only chayiv b'dinei shamayim, you're not chayiv b'dinei adam, because you didn't put the food in the animal's mouth, the animal voluntarily ate it. So it's a similar idea that if it's not coming from your action directly, you cannot be held liable in a beis din. Okay.
But your intention, in the case of the animal, the intention for you to kill that dog.
It may have been malicious, right? Right. You were totally malicious when you did it, but still, only Hashem will hold you liable. You cannot be held liable in a court in a beis din.
So if you shoot a bullet to there and this bullet hit somebody else, 100 meters away or 2,000 meters away.
So,
Are you liable?
so it's an interesting question. If I shoot the bullet and it ends up hurting someone, I'm going to be liable unless I shoot the bullet straight up and then it falls down somehow. I think that the argument might be able to be made that it wasn't my force that caused the bullet to fall down. It was gravity. Maybe you could make that argument. I don't know.
But if you know physics and it ricochets off a wall, but it's still not direct.
Yeah, although that ricocheting projectile is a product of my inertia. It was a product of my energy.
I hear,
So
but the wall sort of had it go
No.
where it ended up going.
The wall didn't shoot it. I shot it. I just used the wall as a way of getting it to where it needed to go.
Is that different than gravity?
Yeah, I think it is. I think conceptually it is, but I'm not sure about the gravity issue. Like, in other words, if I would have to think about that. If I throw something up and then it falls down and lands on someone's property, I probably will still be held liable, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100%.
It's the gravity of the situation.
Yeah.
Rabbi,
Okay.
how does this differ from if you light a fire in your property and then it travels by through wind or something to the next neighbor and it burns? With the case of the fire, would that be you'd be held responsible?
Yeah, you would be held responsible. Apparently, it's let me just see what he says in the footnote. Apparently, it's this was something that we had. Now that I'm thinking about it, I remember we had talked about this before. We had made reference to this before, and it all has to do with how far do we extrapolate the damage of fire? Is the damage of fire only with something that naturally combusts and consumes things on its way, and therefore I'm directly liable? Or is it because it's transported by the wind? And this was the machlokes that we had discussed before. And I don't remember all the details. I just remember that there was this question as far as whether smoke that travels is the same damage as fire, exactly as you said, Shmuel. Let me just see here. He says, if we take a look at the Rambam in chapter 11, Halacha Beis of the Laws of Neighbors. Let's take a look at the Rambam very quickly, and with that we will conclude for today because of all of our malfunctions. Let's see, Halacha, Mishnah Torah. Laws of Neighbors, chapter 11. Yeah, it's the Rambam says it directly. Rambam says, "Afal pishu hu chayav laharchi kol kach im holicha haruach hametzuya hamotz ve'te'afar v'hizika b'hen patur milashalem." The Rambam writes this explicitly, that even though a person is obligated to distance his source of dust and stubble that may be blowing in the wind, he says if it goes ahead and damages, he's going to be patur shaharuachu shesiyeya oso ve'ein nezek zeh ba mikoach mazik atzmo. He says simply because it's the wind that assisted him, and this did not come directly from him. So if we take a look at the commentaries, let's see if there's anyone who discusses this. So the Lechem Mishnah, Shmuel, asks your question. Let me see if I can bring it up. Yeah. He says, the Harav Hamagid Zal Hiksha, Shinrish Bashan the Look Rav Ashi. Second. Okay. No, let's see. He says the question, he says he quotes the Magid Mishnah in the 14th chapter of Hilchos Nizkei Mama, that paskins over there that if you create a fire and the wind transports the fire, then you're going to be liable. And he says that the Rambam holds the garmi eino chayiv ela b'mitkavein lahazik, that the Rambam apparently is of the opinion that you'll only be liable when it was your direct intention to cause damage. Because safti sham dehadu liba v'lipso haruach marvi v'madlik b'toch shel chaveiro dechashiv k'mo mitkavein lahazik ayin sham shebe'arti kol ha'inyan ba'arucha. He says, apparently, when you fan a flame and then the wind carries that flame, he says that's only going to, there's obviously a piece missing in our data, but he wants to claim the liba v'lipso haruach, that if you fan a flame and then the wind continues to transport that flame further, is when you're going to be held liable, either because you did it deliberately with the intention to damage, or because you ignited the flame and caused it to go directly onto your friend's property. However, that doesn't really answer the question about what about when you light a fire. I would have to venture that the difference between these cases is that when you light a fire, you are directly causing the source of damage, which is the fire. But over here, the dust is a byproduct of your actions. It's not your intended action. And so that could be the difference as to why you're not going to be liable over here. But this is a good question. It's a valid question. And we're going to have to figure out what the difference between the two of them is. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All right. We're going to hold it here for today. I apologize for the malfunctions, and we'll try to get to the bottom of it. All right. Take care now, everybody.